Hazem Abdelazim once campaigned for President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, but he's since called support of Sisi his biggest sin and has been vocal about his opposition. On Sunday, he was arrested.
We've seen a number of bloggers, journalists, and other prominent human rights defenders and civil society activists who in the last years, since the government of Sisi has come to power, have been brought in on charges or sometimes in pre-trial detention without any charges, basically because they are critical of the government.
Blogger Wael Abbas was a longtime critic of the government and internationally recognized for his work. He was detained last week in a pre-dawn raid. This recent spate of arrests of bloggers, journalists, and opposition figures may be linked to a government measure that could anger many Egyptians grappling with a weak economy and high inflation.
The
government fears the consequences of steps it plans to take in July, when part of the fuel and electricity subsidies will be lifted. We have seen an embarrassing rehearsal when the government increased the metro tickets, and people broke their fear and expressed their anger.
Reporters Without Borders calls Egypt one of the world's biggest prisons for journalists. At least 34 are behind bars, including Al Jazeera journalist Mahmoud Hussein. Since Sisi led the coalition that removed the democratically elected President Mohamed Morsi from power in 2013, human rights groups say the government has waged a systematic campaign of crushing criticism, one voice at a time. Supporters say tough security policies are needed to bring stability, especially as the government fights armed groups in the Sinai Peninsula.
And journalists and bloggers know that this is a difficult environment in Egypt, but nonetheless, even today, people are tweeting, people will continue to speak out.
But with few independent media outlets left and many journalists and activists jailed, people have no choice but to hear the government's message very clearly. Natasha, Ghoneim, Al Jazeera.